Chapter 11. Fernando Torres drew his right foot back and unleashed a wicked shot with ferocious power. It flew like an arrow, straight and true, not deviating in the slightest in its flight, scorching past the outstretched arms of the diving Jose Reina and thumping into the net. "Great shot, El Niño!" shouted someone from off the field. "He was lucky," Reina bawled with a smile as he stood up and then picked up the ball from the back of the net. Torres, his Liverpool clubmate, looked back and grinned as he trotted back to the halfway line for the restart. The Spanish players were enjoying the practice match. It was hard work but fun as well, especially when one of them managed to get the better of a clubmate. The manager and coaches were watching and taking notes, at times even joining in the light-hearted banter, but always keeping in mind the serious work that lay ahead and the full-scale friendly international at the end of the week. The ball was replaced in the spot and David Villa kicked off, prodding the ball to Santi, who immediately passed it back to Andres Iniesta of Barcelona. Santi moved upfield, seeking out space to the left and a little behind David Villa, concentrating on following the tactical instructions of the coaches. With the World Cup finals looming ever closer, the international get-togethers and warm-up friendly matches were taking on an increasing importance and significance. It was a vital time for both the players and for coaching staff. For the players, it was all about impressing their coaches with not only their skills, but also their training, team spirit, and overall attitude. Coaches, who spent most of the season watching their players from the director's box of one league club or another, grabbed the opportunity of a few days working on and refining play styles, formations, and techniques. The Spanish players had traveled to an international gathering from many different clubs in several different countries. Every club manager has his own preferred playing style and formation, be it 4-4-2, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, or another of many possible permutations. On international duty, players had to adjust to a style that might be completely alien to them at their clubs, and they had to make the adjustment quickly and without fuss. Santi had gradually established himself at international level, playing his part in World Cup qualifiers and in friendly matches, but most of his appearances had been as a substitute. A place in the starting lineup usually came as a result of an injury to one of the established strikers. But Santi had one advantage over the other leading Spanish strikers. His favorite role was as second striker, playing a little deeper than out-and-out frontmen like Fernando Torres, David Villa, and Dani Guisa. It meant that should the manager go with a single striker and a five-man midfield, Santi was unlikely to get a starting role. But if the decision was to start with two up front, then Santi had a good chance of playing in the deeper role. Partnered with David Villa, he was doing exactly that as the practice match continued. The ball moved neatly through the midfield to Santi, who looked up and saw Villa's run. He threaded the ball through and Villa hit the shot in the run, bringing a fine save from Real Madrid's Iker Casillas, a former teammate of Santi's. Villa looked back to Santi, nodding and applauding the quality of the ball Santi had delivered. This latest get-together was in Spain, a training week followed by a match against an opposition team similar in style to one of the teams in Spain's first-round group at the World Cup finals. Spain would be facing Cameroon from the African qualifiers in its first group matches in South Africa, so the friendly against the Ivory Coast the weekend would be a good test for the players. Santi was hoping for a place in the starting lineup, but if that didn't happen, he was desperate for a lengthy run out from the bench. He'd been in fine form and the manager had watched him in the Premiership, seeing him score a couple of times. Since winning the European Championships in 2008, the Spanish squad had bonded into a compact and close unit. Santi knew many of the squad very well, both from his time at Real Madrid, where a number of his former teammates still played, and from the English Premiership. Torres and Reina from Liverpool and Cesc Fabregas from Arsenal were Premiership opponents, but for now club rivalries were forgotten, or at least put on hold, until after the international gathering. The players were working intensively, with the coaches hammering home their tactics and trying various permutations from within the squad. Little time was spent on fitness training. At this point in the season, the players were already at peak fitness. It was all about getting the team working as a unit, not just the players who were virtually assured a starting place once the finals came around, but every member of the squad. They all needed to be ready. Anything could happen. Injuries, loss of form, late arrivals to the squad. Every man in the squad wanted to play in the finals, not just to be there, so there was no chance of coasting through an international gathering. Maximum effort and concentration were not just required, They were demanded. Out in the field, Santi was on a run, and this time David Villa was poacher turned provider, setting up Santi with a deft touch through the defense. Santi had anticipated the pass well. Understanding was growing through all areas of the Spanish squad. He took the ball on for a couple of strides and then thumped it past Casillas. It wasn't as stunning as a strike as the one Torres had scored a few minutes before, but it was a well-worked and well-taken goal. Santi smiled as he looked over the touchline and saw the coaches nodding their satisfaction and then making notes. Good. If he was giving them selection headaches, he was delighted. End of chapter 11.